we're going to be breaking down the hidden psychological mechanics behind why and exactly when people lie. We usually think of lying as this simple black and white moral failing, right? But the psychology behind it is actually incredibly intricate. I promise you, by the end of this explainer, you're going to have a completely different perspective on the human mind and those daily interactions you have with everyone around you. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually stopped to ask yourself, why do we really lie? Is it always just an act of malice, like a deliberate, villainous attempt to harm someone or pull the wool over their eyes? Or is there something much, much deeper, and honestly, perhaps a lot more vulnerable, at play within our own minds? As we'll see today, the source of our dishonesty often has way more to do with self-preservation than it does with trying to hurt anyone else. So here is our structured roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The psychology of deception, 2. Emotional triggers, 3. Preserving our social status, 4. Mass media and perception, and 5. Our final takeaways. Let's jump right in. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the psychology of deception. What's really mind-blowing here is the paradigm shift this presents. Dr. Mkheidze's core premise is that lying is actually an adaptive behavior. It's literally hardwired into human psychology. Instead of just being a bad habit, it's a complex psychological tool and a defense mechanism. When we step back and view deception through a psychological lens, rather than a purely judgmental one, we start to see that people use it to navigate incredibly tricky social landscapes. It's basically the brain's way of trying to keep us safe in a very complex societal structure, rather than just some spontaneous act of malice. Moving right along to Section 2, emotional triggers for lying. So, if lying is a defense mechanism, what exactly is it defending us against? Well, a lie rarely starts from a place of calm, calculating logic. Instead, it's almost always born from internal emotional turbulence. We're talking about the immediate fear of consequences, a sudden massive spike in anxiety and stress, and our primal defensive survival instincts. Just imagine you're put on the spot with a really difficult question. Your heart rate elevates, panic sets in, and your brain is desperately looking for an escape hatch. And very often, that escape hatch is a lie. The deception is just the symptom. The underlying emotional distress, that's the actual cause. That brings us to Section 3. Preserving our social status. Now, while fear is a massive trigger, our intrinsic need to protect our place in the hierarchy is just as powerful. Social status is essentially our perceived position and value within a group. Because humans are intensely social creatures, historically our very survival depended on our standing within our tribe. Today, that translates into this incredibly powerful, almost overwhelming drive to maintain, elevate, or even completely fabricate our status. We dedicate a massive portion of our mental energy and our deception to managing how other people perceive us. If we feel our status is threatened, or if we just feel inadequate, the urge to lie to bridge that gap becomes absolutely huge. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast between the two fundamental categories of lies. An emotion-driven lie is your classic panic response. It's triggered by internal fear and anxiety, just a quick reaction to avoid immediate trouble. In contrast, a status-driven lie is a much more calculated fabrication. That one is triggered by the need to boost the ego and secure social standing. So one is all about escaping a negative consequence, while the other is about artificially creating a positive perception. To explain this status-driven lie a bit further, the source material touches on a really intriguing concept we can call the Alain Delon effect. Named after the impossibly cool French cultural icon alongside figures like Lena Ventura, this represents how we unconsciously borrow traits from high-status individuals to elevate our own fabricated image. I mean, have you ever noticed someone subtly adopting the mannerisms, the style, or even the speech patterns of a famous actor or successful figure? We project these borrowed cultural touchstones onto ourselves to kind of shortcut our way to higher status. We're effectively deceiving our peers, and honestly, sometimes ourselves, about who we truly are. Let's shift gears to Section 4, mass media and perception. We've talked a lot about human nature, but technology has drastically complicated our psychological landscape. If our desire to protect our status is the spark, modern media is essentially the gasoline. We are constantly immersed in massive mass media narratives and the highly curated lives of digital bloggers. This creates an environment where perception management isn't just something we do at a party on the weekend, it's a 24/7 job. We live in societal echo chambers, where the baseline for what constitutes a normal or successful life is artificially inflated. This completely pressure cooks our natural instinct to lie, making digital deception a massive, totally normalized part of modern life. So the crucial point is perfectly captured by this insight. Mass media and bloggers shape a new reality. These digital platforms aren't just reflecting life back at us, they are actively shaping the standard by which we measure our own social status. Because the reality presented to us is so heavily filtered and curated, it's essentially a beautiful lie, it naturally triggers our own feelings of inadequacy. It amplifies our natural defensive instinct to manage social perception, compelling us to curate our own realities just to feel like we belong in this new digital hierarchy. Which leads us to our final stop. Section 5. Final psychological takeaways. Let's pull all these thematic pillars together and see how this builds into a complete psychological framework. Step 1 is the internal trigger. Our raw emotions like fear or the sting of inadequacy spark the initial defense mechanism. Then, step 2 is the social motivation. Our deep-seated need to protect or elevate our status steps in to actually draft the narrative of the lie. And finally, step 3 is the external amplifier. Modern media reinforces this fabricated perception, locking us into a cycle where we are constantly comparing our behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel. This step-by-step chronology shows exactly how modern deception operates from the inside out. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Are we actively shaping our reality, or is our fabricated reality shaping us? Once we understand that lying is largely a defense mechanism, triggered by fear and this desperate need for social belonging, we can actually start to look at ourselves and others with a bit more empathy. By recognizing the powerful role media plays in this whole cycle, we can begin to step back, break the illusion, and strive for more genuine connections. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the world around you, and I really hope this gives you a powerful new framework for understanding the hidden psychology of deception.